right, we got Crystal joining.
Are you coming?
Booby Smurf, as she's known.
Who's known?
Ooh,
Who's known?
Booby Smurf.
Hey,
It's her nickname.
it's been a while.
That's you.
It's been a while since you called me that.
This
That's
is
what I
true. I'm
called you for
slacking.
that night.
That's what you called me?
A couple weeks ago, we were talking and had a discussion about how you don't call me Booby Smurf because I got mom boobs now.
No, I never said that. You made that
Because
assumption.
I have mom boobs.
Yeah, see, I never said that.
They don't sit up.
Mom boobs are great too. There's nothing wrong with mom boobs.
David.
Come here.
Turbo,
Turbo.
come sit down, Turbo.
Can we get 4 people on that couch? I think we can.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Turbo, come sit down, please.
Brian, come on, man.
Turbo,
All right.
come sit
tried.
down, Turbo.
If I can't, then you can.
Turbo, come over here and shut the door so this dog ain't coming in here, please. I have to watch the dog. Man, stop.
Nah, you don't have to watch the dog. She's good. Lucy, you know better.
If I have to be here.
Are we going?
Yeah, no, we're good. Just start whenever.
All right, so I wanna tell David.
Yo, what's up, brother?
I want to tell David.
Why'd you say David in the lower tone? David.
I want to tell David about my grandmother real quick.
Oh man, I love to hear, bro.
So, my grandmother is 98 years old. She's still alive, right?
She just turned 99.
Oh, okay. She just turned 99. Thanks, Crystal, for telling me how old my grandmother is. So, interesting story about my grandmother. She only read the Bible every day until she couldn't read it.
Wow.
She couldn't read a magazine. She couldn't watch TV. I would say, have you ever picked up a book and read a book about money or anything? She missed out on her whole life. She never really traveled anywhere, never did anything. It was every day she would read this book, right? I remember once they were talking about evolution on TV, about how they found a skull. Was it the Iceman? They found some skull way back from when, which was before Christ and the Jesus days and the Bibles and all this stuff, right? And I asked her about it, and they were saying that the skull was it was part ape and part human, something like that. And I asked her, I said, well, is evolution real? Did we come from, apes or whatever? And she said, that's just a different kind of ape. Ain't come from apes. We came from Jesus and God and, whatever. So she ended up telling me a story about how when she was younger in her mother's house, which is my great-grandmother, which I've been to this house. It's in the mountains of Jamaica. She saw a silver disc come out of the air. It landed in the backyard, and it either put something in the ground. She said, I'm sorry, let me back up. The disc landed, 3 legs came down. She said 2 what looked like children in silver suits with silver pointy hats got out, and they either put something in the ground or took something out the ground. It got back in, and it just shot off. And I was like, well, what'd you tell mother, which is my great-grandmother? She was like, well, back then, children are supposed to be seen and not heard, so I didn't tell her anything. Now, my grandmother, you could hold a Glock 45 to her head and tell her to lie about what kind of juice was in the fridge. She's taking that bullet because she's in such fear of going to hell that she's going to tell the truth. She's going to say there's no juice in the fridge, there's just soda, and she's going to eat that bullet. So she told me about this story, and I asked her, I said, well, what does that say about God or whatever? And she told me, she was like, well, don't you remember in the Bible when God talks about, he talked about great beast, I think, as far as dinosaurs is what she said. And then he talked about other worlds. Man was made in his image and something about other worlds or something. But imagine that though. What does that say about, UFOs and things like that? What does that say about people who are religious from your standpoint?
UFOs?
Yeah, because you're go to church. You seem to be a religious guy. You have your Bible. How do you explain otherworldly beings? Are those beings from? My grandmother said they were from God also. That's what she said.
I have no experience in that area, so I wouldn't be able to speak on that, man. Like, I just have my personal experience with God, and I was not a super religious kid growing up, man. I actually was. My family was the opposite.
You're opposite.
Yeah, man. I mean, I wasn't raised in a church, like the first time that I got a little dose of spirituality, I was playing high school football at Jefferson High School in Tampa, Florida. And one of my best friends, him and his mother were spiritual. They were Christians. And I used to go to church with him a little bit, and we'd pray together. And actually, football kind of brought me probably the closest thing to God, because we would pray before every game, like
I seen that.
Yeah, man, it's awesome, and it brings us together. At the time, I appreciate it. Then, like, every time it's so funny how these little messages stick with you. Because do you guys remember Danny Warfel? You remember him? Yeah, Florida quarterback, right? So after every time he threw a touchdown, what did he do? Huh?
Did he pray?
He would point to the sky.
Right.
So that stuck with me. So, like, when I was a quarterback at Jefferson, every time I throw a touchdown, I thank God, and I point to the sky, And that year I threw 26 touchdowns. So I pointed to the sky 26 times. It's not, it's nothing magnificent or whatever, but just it's funny how those little messages like stick with us, man. Those are like planting seeds, And like now I see it. Like, I've never talked about this before, but I'm talking about what you guys is coming out of me. But getting off track here, but
do you think people have to feel like they belong to something, and that's why they gravitate towards religion?
Good question. Because everyone needs a leader, right? We're always, who's the best leader, Biden or Trump, or we're voting. We're always looking for a leader for some reason.
What I love the most, man, in my personal experience, and I have not read the Bible front to back, at all. Like, I take little messages here and there. And I don't know all the stories. I don't know everything, but I do. What I do know is this really explains true love, because I wanted to understand true love in every aspect of my life. So I actually put it if you look at the top of my phone, like in my notes, every day.
Are you talking about Psalms?
I'm just talking about the Bible in general, like, because I truly believe the Bible is explaining how to love like God, so we can project that into the world.
So even with the rewritten,
because your spirit,
you feel like it's still something you can follow.
Do I feel like? What do you mean? I'm
the rewritten versions of the Bible.
You talking about the New Testament?
Any I don't know, any version. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really a scholar of that nature. I mean, honestly, I believe the Bible is very simple. And this is what really, there's like a lot of people say. Like, I did some research on it, the Holy Trinity, which is considered perfect love. And does anybody know what the Holy Trinity is?
Sounds familiar. Go ahead.
The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Okay.
So a lot of people say it's hard to explain, but to me, I'm like, is it really that hard? Like, if I love God with all my heart, then my son will love God with all his heart, and then he'll put that love into his family, and then our family will put that love into the world. Because, the thing about God is he teaches you how to think outside of just your immediate family. You start thinking about the world.
But so with the Bible, it's very black and white. It's either you believe in God or you believe in false idols and you're going to hell. That's pretty much what it is. So then I always wondered to myself, well, what about tribes in Africa or Australia who didn't grow up with God? They didn't have a Bible. They didn't have paper.
You don't think they have a God?
They probably believed in something.
They do, but it's not the Christian God.
Yeah, well, like even Egypt. Let's say Egypt. They believed in the sun, literally the sun, and the Eye of Ra, and they had 20 different gods.
Right.
So are they going to hell because they're not Christians?
Right.
Are Muslims going to hell because they're not Christians, or are Christians going to hell because they're not Muslims, or which?
I'm not so focused on the for me, man. I'm just one perspective, man. Everybody has multiple perspectives, so I'm not so focused on like going to hell and all that. Like, my focus is love. Like is to really truly love like God. I'm not worried about Because I think if you love like God, you don't have to worry about hell.
So is
Well-
it more the message or the absolute truth behind the Bible, right? Is there an absolute truth? Is the Bible word for word true, or is it more the message that matters, right? Because as Chris said, there are millions and there have been billions of people who don't necessarily follow Christianity to a T.
Well, I was
right?
taught there was always a consequence to not believing. Like if you don't believe,
Right.
you're going to hell.
Sure.
And discussion.
And and can we truly condemn
I have a
everyone
personal
on this planet who doesn't follow Christianity to its to those specifics, right? There's billions of people who don't. Are they all going to hell, or should we be a little more lenient?
And how do we know?
Yeah, and how do we know?
Well, so I really think it comes down like what really helps us, man. Like, is people don't, from what I understand, man, is like people don't want to be beat over the head with scripture. They want to hear your story. So they want to hear your testimony. Like what brought you closer to God? What happened to you? That this God is so amazing, right? So when God impacts your life, it's your responsibility to take that story and share it with other people, man. So like you can bring more people to the kingdom, closer to the kingdom. So I had a lot of traumatic things happen to me that led me to God. So
I think it was those traumatic things that made you want to believe in something and grasp.
no, I
something.
saw like things, I saw like really, like, I was going to a bad place. Like I was, I'll give you my experience. In 2019, I accepted Christ at a music festival over the phone with my grandfather. He had been planting seeds up. My grandmother died in 2016 of congestive heart failure, and our family was not religious, by any means at that time. But trying to think how I'm putting this together for you guys, but my grandfather was struggling really hard, and we didn't understand what he was going through. And 9 months later, after my grandma died, he was getting married to another woman. I was like, man, what's that about? The whole family was weirded out, right? So he pulled me to the side one day and he said, David, I want to explain a situation to you. He's like, he's like, when your grandma died, I stopped eating. I stopped taking care of myself. They were married for like 55 years.
How old were you at this time?
This was just 2016. I don't know. I'm 36 now, so 31. Does that sound right? Maybe 30.
Okay.
But he stopped taking care of himself, and he got on his knees and he prayed to God, and he said, God, just give me a sign. Give me anything. Give me anything. And he said about 10 minutes later, this lady from church calls him. She's like, Dave, I'm worried about you. I haven't seen you at church. What's going on? So he just poured it. He cried his heart out. He poured his heart out to her, and 9 months later, he ends up marrying her, and I think God sent her, and that was a message for him. And then after that, he started, every time we go out to eat, he'd start planting seeds. Like he'd plant these little seeds, hey, 5 minutes, what's your relationship with God? This and that, and I've always listened to my grandpa growing up, so I listened to him. Everybody else in the family was like, man, what's up with this? What's up with it? But and as time went on, I found out that my great-great-grandpa was a Baptist minister. And what happened was he got in a car accident when my grandfather was young. And then my grandfather stopped following Christ. He got off the path. He went to military, all that jazz. So he didn't raise us in the church. So he's literally coming through like in the fourth quarter. He's like 88 years old. He's coming through and he's like, he's like Brady right now. He's winning the game. You know what I'm saying? like he's coming through. He's saving us all. So he was planting those seeds. And I was at work one day. I was working for the Postal Service, and this driver came up to me and he's like, you ever seen this app? This Holy Bible app? Oh man. He's like, it gives you a message a day. And immediately I thought about when I was in high school, Coach Mike Simmons at Jefferson High School. He said, he had a real Southern voice. He's from Indiana State. He played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was an offensive lineman. The guy was huge. He's still coaching college football right now. Mm-hmm. He's like, if you can just read one line a day, one line. It's all I ask, guys. It's all I ask. And then, so that stuck with me.
Yeah.
So then here I am.
Yeah.
What am I, I don't know, 16 years later, this driver comes up to me, immediately something like this little spiritual thing connected in my head. And I was like, damn, I remember Coach Simmons said if I could just read one line a day, this thing gives you one line a day.
Right.
And then what would happen was when I would read that one line a day, I'd end up reading more. I was never like super, like reading all the stories, but I like Proverbs because like the messages were short and to the point,
Sure.
But anyways, I'm gonna make this quick. I'm gonna bring it home. For you guys really quick. But after that, I was on my way to work the next day. After that, I met that driver and he told me that. I'm driving over the bridge. I got excited. I called my grandpa. I'm like, I was so excited to tell him, man, like, man, this, the story. And then how I got this connection. He was like, my grandpa's going to be proud, right? So I call him and he's like, we can do this right now. I'm like, do what? He's like, you can accept Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I'm like, I just got quiet, like 2 minutes. I didn't say nothing back, dude. I was just like, I was thinking about everything. I'm thinking about all the women I'm sleeping with. I'm thinking about drugs and the alcohol I'm doing and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah. And I go, Grandpa, I really appreciate that, but I'm not ready for that right now. And he goes, well, you know what? He's like, when you are, just give me a call. But anyways, like, how you doing? So we just started talking, blah, blah, blah. So 2 months later, I end up at this music festival, and I'm angry at all my friends, and I've done pissed off everybody in my life, and I'm like, I'm doing this music festival by myself, so I went out, I got all this cool gear, I got all these decorations for my for the festival to hang out by myself. I bought mad alcohol, mad weed, all that stuff, and I'm coming into the music festival, and I end up behind one of my friends, and as we pull in, he goes to the left, and I'm like, I am not going over there. So I went to the right, and there's like this big lake in the middle. So as I'm going around, people are bringing you in to park you and stuff. I go all the way around, and I end up like right here, right beside them. Like, so I'm here, they're here, and I get out of the car, and some couple's like arguing, and I'm like, I'm not feeling this. So I got back in the car, and I went to the other side of the lake. So I'm over here, and they're over here, and the lake's in the middle, So I could see them from across the lake, but they couldn't see me. And I got out, and I started meeting people. I started having this like awesome time, man. I'm like enjoying myself. And I'm like, man, everybody's coming in. All these people, just awesome time. And I just start saying to myself, I'm like, man, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Oh my God, this is so amazing, God. I'm having such a good time. And I just like start crying out to God, bro.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden that spiritual high came back again, a little tingle.
Right.
I said, I'm gonna call my grandpa. So I give him a call, and I told him what happened, and he's like, we can do this right now. I was like, we can do what?
Yeah.
No. I said, you know what, Grandpa, let's do it. So I went in the tent.
Yeah.
He said his spiel. 5 minutes later, I was like, that's it? He's like, that's it? You accepted Christ as your Lord and Savior.
Okay.
And he's like, now you got to get yourself into a church. You got to start practicing better habits, make better choices.
Right.
Like, right on. Grandpa hung up the phone, popped open a bottle. I'm celebrating, man. I'm saved.
Yeah.
I start celebrating. I start smoking weed.
Is that when you stopped giving up? Is that when you gave up women, or?
No. This is what's funny, because I didn't at that point I didn't get it, right? So I'm like, man, I'm good, man. I'm saved. I accepted Christ. So I just kept, saying, I think I had sex that night. You know what I'm saying? I had sex that night. I drank, I smoked, I partied. All that, man.
Right.
And then, same thing. I just continue to live my life the same way. 2 months later, I catch COVID when it first comes out. So I got laid down. I'm stuck. I'm in the bed. Laid down for like 5 days. I mean, it hit me hard.
Okay.
My dad was living with me at the time, and he's like, son, you need to go to the hospital. He like picked me up, took me to the hospital. Whatever. Found out I had COVID. 2 months later, I'm gonna bring it together, guys. I'm at Jenny Springs, and I'm I got a 17-year-old son, and we're not getting along. Mixed child, by the way. Beautiful kid.
Bye.
Beautiful kid. Huh?
No.
Beautiful kid.
Yeah, that's common around these parts.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's
The mixed
beautiful though,
babies.
man. Is I think that's how we're gonna get over all this racism.
Right.
Is us, man. We're coming together. And everybody's gonna be mixed.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so so me and my son, we're not getting along. My mom drives up with my son. We float down the river. I'm drinking. I'm wilding out. I got videos I could show you guys. I'm partying. Having a great time. And, me and my son get into it. My friend says something to me like about raising kids. And I'm like, you don't even have a kid. You need to shut up, and all that. So I'm angry. Don't tell me how to raise my kid,
Mm-hmm.
So my mom and my son left and all that jazz. And so now I'm just really upset. So now I just start going harder, man. I start partying, drinking more. Then a woman that I've, messed with for years, she drove up, and she joined us. We're having a good time, and I'm, I ended up staying there for like a week, man, calling in and out of work and all that stuff.
Okay.
And I'm just partying every day. And, finally, like one of the last days that we were there, like our real festival friends showed up, like with the real hard drugs, they brought like, some weed and alcohol, that's one thing. But, they showed up, got the acid, they got the mushrooms, they got the cocaine.
Cocaina.
Yeah, they got the cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as they showed up, I'm already upset, and this is the other thing.
I perked right up.
Little ears perking up.
Stop it. I'm a good boy.
But this is the other thing. I had just read this book by Pastor Devon Franklin called The Truth About Men. And that book really inspired me, man. And it was everything he was saying in that book I could relate to as a man, which probably most of us can. And he's like, something about like when you feed the dog, the more you feed the dog, the more the dog wants to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So I went up.
Which is your ego.
2 weeks later, after I read this book, I'm carrying this concept, and I'm like, I'm not going to feed the dog. I think I'm going to just fix myself, right?
Okay.
So then I get upset with myself because I ended up breaking down and sleeping with the girl who came up. And I'm like, man, so my son's mad at me, my mom's mad at me, but I done had sex. So I'm like, man, whatever, dude, I suck. I just kept drinking, having a good time, partying, and by the time the festival buddies showed up, they're coming, I just start doing all kinds of cocaine, taking all kind of acid, just like nonstop. And I remember my buddy, he came up to me like right before things got really ugly, and he grabbed me on the shoulder. And he's like, dude, you don't have to take everything they give you, man. And I'm like, bro, get off me, man. I'm good, Right. Like, give me some more acid. I don't know. So anyway, so I start, me and the girl, we ran up to the store to go get get beer and stuff. So at that point, that's when the drugs like really hit.
Right.
And I'm like, oh man. And I felt like I was dehydrated too. So like my body started hurting,
right,
like crazy, man, tightening, locking up and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I started like really tripping, man. And she drove me, we ended up in the car. We got back to the campsite. I tried to down water, but it was too late. Like I passed out. My heart was like pounding through my chest. I peed all over myself.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, straight up, dude. And she took care of me though. She took care of me. My buddies damn sure didn't. They
Right.
threw me in a tent, But anyways, like what I saw though, when I started tripping, man, it was just like, it was insane, man. It was like a straight spiritual trip, man. And I got broken down and I saw my life. Those like little flip books?
Yeah.
Like, it's like emotions as you flip through them.
Yep.
Well, that's how I see my life. And it would go, and then boom, I get broke back down. And it break me back down. And he was shooting me like to all these different places. And, then I'd look over and my friends like, their faces look like demonic.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on, man?
He was shooting you
Acid
at all
was
these
fucking
places.
with you, boy.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
Right
You said he was shooting you at all
He was
these
shooting me to all these places.
He, as in, okay.
Yeah, that's
all
how I
right.
felt. Exactly. I like that you caught that.
Yeah.
So this is where I'm gonna bring it all together, guys. So as I'm going to this really dark place, man, because I've done traveled all these different places. I've spent time over here and there, and I was like, I don't like it over here. I don't like it over there. This is scary. I would wake up for a little bit. I don't know. It was weird. But then I was going down this really dark place. So this is where I think they have that, like, some people say they see like angels or white light.
Yeah.
My light was not white.
Okay.
My light was black. And I was going down like a tunnel. Like say like your the back of your throat, like that type of look, like how it's red and it has that look. I don't know if I'm describing.
No,
it
I know what
properly.
you're saying. Okay. Yeah.
But
that's scary.
just imagine that black.
Yeah.
You're going down a hole like that.
Okay.
And I'm going down it really, really fast.
Mm.
And I know I was like, and I felt my heart like about to pound through my chest.
Sounds like you're going somewhere else.
Yeah. And I said, and so what I held on to most at that time is I loved my father.
Mm.
I said, I love my father. I love my father. I love my father. I love my father. And then automatically I said, I live for my son. And then boom, like my eyes shot open, bro. And I couldn't breathe. I was like, I mean, like, bro, I couldn't breathe for like a long time. I was just like hyperventilating, like, and like nobody was around. Everybody had left me. you know. So
Crazy, dude.
and then my mind was like blown out for like, and I just like, I couldn't even communicate with people, man. Like it was just like, I'm just sitting there and I couldn't, like, I'm explaining to you what I saw now, but I couldn't explain it at that time.
Right.
So the crazy thing is, so for 2 weeks after that, I'm just like not really, thinking, like I'm like, man, what happened? That was weird. So 2 weeks later, same thing happens. I wake up in the hospital. I'm knocked out. I got in a car accident. Car T-bones me. I get a traumatic brain injury.
On your side?
70 miles per hour, a Chevy Trailblazer ran a red light off of State Road 52 on the Veterans Expressway.
Hit you on the passenger side?
Hit the passenger side and knocked me out instantly. I had a little bump, like a bruise right here, but it did a lot of damage to my brain.
Yeah, it was right.
It's a traumatic brain injury, and I couldn't. So I woke up again, not being able to talk words, not being able to think clearly. If everything just, but COVID was going on at the time. So they released me too early. So I went home and I just slept for days. I just slept. My dad said I would get up and I'd be like, and then I'd go lay back down. He's like, bro, I was so worried about you, man. Like you just you weren't functioning.
Of course, man. Yeah.
What have you learned from all of these realizations?
I'm gonna bring it together right now.
He's
Bringing
about
it
to have
together.
that
I'm about to
moment.
bring it all together.
There it is.
Yeah. So this is my testimony.
Okay.
So yeah. Oh man, where was I? Where was I on that?
The accident.
So yeah, I came home from the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It took me some weeks to get my mind right or whatever, and it still wasn't right. I tried to go back to work, like 2 weeks after, and then I was getting at work and I was just getting dizzy all the time, and I just felt really weird, man. And I was like, so I went back out and they had ran some MRIs, so I didn't even realize that how bad things were. Like I was trying to function, and the doctor sat me down and he goes, man, you can't be going to work, man. He's like, you have a traumatic brain injury, man. He's like, you need to rest, bro. You need to you need to take it easy. So he wrote me out. And then 3 months later, I had a brain tumor removed. They found a brain tumor. I got a huge scar here. I lost all my hearing in my left ear.
Was that from the accident or was
No, it was. I was starting to lose my hearing before, and I had got it checked out. And then so I ended up like 3 months later. I went to the brain surgeon and had my appointment. And I was like, is it okay to go through with this, being that I already have a traumatic brain injury? He's like, you're just going to be healing from 2 brain injuries.
Was that non-carcinogenic?
What's that mean? Oh, like not cancerous?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was benign. Yeah.
It's benign. Good.
Yeah, it was benign. So,
that mic?
but this one, can you hear me?
I can't see your face. The mic is.
Oh, it's
Nah,
okay.
you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't need to see.
But then after
all of
that,
his face. You
after
good.
the brain tumor was removed, then I had hip surgery.
Yeah.
So 4 months later, I had hip surgery. So literally within this 6 month period, I couldn't walk, couldn't talk, couldn't think. So he broke me down.
Yeah.
So I ended up in this, in the bed by myself. And actually, one of the women I used to date, she helped me out like tremendously, man. And then her mother helped me out a lot. And and then she gave me this book. She gave me this book called Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Carolyn Leaf. And every day, this is a neuroscientist, and she combines science and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people like to separate the two, but she gives you a Bible verse, and then she gives you a brain tip, and then she combines the two, and you read this every day. So like I literally was like retraining my brain every day with this, and then I would read the Holy Bible app. And it was a process, man. I'm not going to say this thing happened overnight, but at the same time, since I had the time out of work, I was like, I'm going to try to like heal myself from everything.
I can
like,
see how religion helped you.
You see,
Going through all
that's
that.
my testimony.